Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Valiuco, and welcome to Personal Pans, conversations about belief, transformation, and all the weird things that we experience. Tonight's guest is Stephanie Quick, the esoteric writer behind Ghost Dog is a Mystery Box, where she writes about everything from synchronicity to sex magic. Steph is also incredibly stylish, and so we ended up talking about a few things that I care a lot about. One, crafting a magical personality. Two, ritual adornment. Three, I also described how starting my Gmail business was accidentally magical working. And then we talked about all the ways that you can incorporate magic into your clothing. Steph also showed off several of her garments, and it was really cool to see all the stitch work and all of those. This was a really delightful conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as well.
But like you're talking about, if I had to hit on two human things, it's like getting out there, walking around wherever the heck you are, and then also making things with your hands, manipulating the environment, I think are two of the biggest aspects of being human. And like you, I've sewn, let's see, since I'm almost 60, and I started sewing when I was 14, and I sew most of my own clothes. So
amazing.
People sometimes they say, wow, you're so good. It's like, well, it's been like over like 40 years or something. So I hope
I better be good at this point.
If I wasn't, man, I don't know what to say.
Exactly.
But yeah, like you're saying, because it's weird because we talked about discussing like crafts and the spiritual esoteric life.
Yes.
And it was funny because usually I'm the type of person, like I will have like a 22 page Google document with like diagrams, links, and pictures and everything, preparing for any appearance.
Yeah, of course.
And I was just like completely, my head was blank. The only thing I could think of was Dion Fortune's books, The Sea Priestess and Moon Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night when I realized that this is going to be a video chat, I'm like, oh, I can haul out a bunch of my clothes
exactly
to people to illustrate some of these things. But when you were talking about being embodied, let's see if I can find something here. One of the things that I have, I'm like kind of one of the classic like psychic empath, get a lot of sensations and impressions. Hi, Oliver.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to get gratuitous Oliver there. Hi, baby.
Perfect. Pets are always encouraged on the podcast.
It's pretty funny. But I'm like super sensitive, like psychically, but then just for many people, it's also translated to be super sensitive just physically.
Yes, right.
So I'm trying to find this one I put out here, which I can't find right now. But so this is one of the reasons why I enjoy making my own clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of clothes that you see will have very, the insides will be very irritating. Like a lot of people like to, let's say, cut the tags off.
Yes, exactly.
Because it'll get you right here,
yeah,
and it's
right
irritating.
There. Yes.
Yeah. Or they will use, this is going to sound very Princess and the Bee, they'll use threads that can be kind of scratchy and irritating, like,
oh yeah.
Let's see.
Well, okay, especially like any surged seam is going to have, yeah, exactly. It's going to have that thread over that seam allowance. And again, it's you, especially now too. Like here's my little rant also.
Okay. I'm going over to the closet, but I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to do a quick little rant about fast fashion, because so much of what is produced right now is just like again, capitalism is, especially where we're at, and like late stage capitalism is about the production of waste. And so much of this stuff, again, it's made of polyester, it's just plastic, the threads are plastic, and again, I don't have a problem with polyester. I make a lot of yarn products out of some sort of nylon blend, but like it's stuff that is produced to be trash, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
they don't care about the seams, they don't care about the thread, like
they don't care about the fit, they don't care about anything.
They don't care
They
about
care how it looks on a hanger, so you'll buy it. That's what they care about.
That's exactly that. And even then, there was some insane video I saw about this dump in Argentina.
Yeah.
That it's tons, like thousands of tons of garbage clothes that have just been dumped in this desert. They don't even care at this point. It's just essentially the production of waste, right?
Yeah.
And so that too, it's like when you're, again, I'm actually wearing a shirt that I made, right? And it's like,
so I
yeah. So you can be mindful of the thread that you use and even the stitching that you use, you know, and like what you're doing to make sure that it fits right and it sits nicely and it hugs your body in the way that you want it to, or
exactly
drapes the way you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I'm nearly 6 feet tall. I have broad shoulders. Nothing fits me.
That's another thing with me is that because I sew and because I have a particular presentation,
yeah,
I get a lot of people saying, oh, you know, you have such a great figure and clothes look so good on you. It must be great to go shopping. No. I'm 5'6", but I also have these honking shoulders. And I literally, from the time I was small, will be like anything manufactured, unless it's like super oversized, I'll rip the shoulders out.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a jacket that I'm still holding on to because I sentimental reasons, but you can see where it's just like literally like, you know.
Of course. Of course.
But
yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to show. So let's see. I have this here. This is actually a purchased garment, but it's from a smaller place down in Texas, and they have a lot more control over. They make small batches.
Yes.
They have a lot more control over the garments. So it has these serge seams. But you can see here, the tension is a lot better. I don't know how well it's coming across. And they've used a nicer quality thread.
Yes.
And so it's not irritating. Now, I have had this garment for over a year, and I've been wearing, I've probably worn it a couple times a week that whole time. So you can see that it's still in decent shape, and it's not getting like super ratty or pilled up there. So it shows that there is a quality to it, and it's this nice linen, which is really comfortable. And has this fun design on it. There's a lot of fabric to it. Luckily it was on, it's a place called Heart's Desire by Mary Grace in Texas, and they're a little more expensive, but I find that, and this is something we were talking about, when it comes to clothing, food can be very similar, music. These are things where you can find out, let's say, from the esoteric angle, your own personal expression in the material plane, how that is, right? So much of like spiritual life, like in Buddhism, Catholicism, a lot of these things are about renunciation, which can be important. At the same time, if you really want to be living here in the manifest world, what you want is equally important. What you like, it can be a way, how do I say? Renunciation is great, but at a certain point you have to say yes, or else you're not really here.
I love the fact that you just said that, because I feel like this is something I rant about with my friends all the time, because okay, if you want to accept that you are a spiritual and a material being, right? This I feel like that so many different belief systems have what is essentially that idea of the mortification of the flesh, right? And I think that is so toxic, and it's so anti-life, and I think it really informs a lot of the anti-life political practices, because if you believe that inherently your body, that there is something wrong with it, that it is sinful, and even if it is not, like, you know, if you don't believe in original sin, but you do believe that it is a source of like worldly suffering and disappointments, like, to me,
temptation.
That is temptation. Exactly. Like, that is so sad, right? Because to like even cults will say, you know, they're like the Ramtha school of enlightenment is all about like the idea of like we're addicted to emotions and that's how we get trapped in this reincarnation cycle. And it's like, but being human is so beautiful, right? There is something, again, even just talking about the clothes that you're wearing, like that sensual practice of
Yeah.
wearing something that you feel good about, that feels good. I am constantly like, so much of what informs my choices in terms of the fabric that I use and
Mhm.
or the yarn that I use when I'm knitting something. Does this feel good in my hands? Will this feel good on my body? Right? I am absolutely like a hedonist when it comes to that, right? Or a
And
sensualist.
it's a way to get out of that cycle of consumption because you're actually satisfied, right?
Yes.
Like I can wear that dress
Yes.
twice a week for a year and I still want to wear it because I actually it
Yes.
satisfies me. And
Exactly.
it's a very similar relationship with like food or music or books or walking, whatever it is that you're doing.
Mhm.
But it's a way to kind of break out of that mindless consumption cycle.
Exactly that. And I think you bring up this good point because it's like when you are wearing something, eating something, experiencing something, even when you're having like a real conversation with somebody, you know,
Mhm.
you can just feel that tingle where you're like, this is important, this is real. And it helps reset your barometer because so much of life is, you know, you start out at school, they sit you in a desk. It's like, okay, sit down and shut up and pay attention to this thing. You don't want to do any of those fucking things. And you're being forced to and trained to. And
Yeah.
so much of life is about like, again, disconnecting, alienating you from what is really human or what is really yours. And so
Mhm.
like, again, having real conversations, eating food that is really satisfying, like all of those help reset your barometer. Because again, I don't think that there's anything inherently evil in the human experience. I think evil comes from being alienated from who you really are and what you really want. Because all you have to do is look at kids, right? Like, they cry because they have needs that aren't being met.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy, right? So if you see adults acting a fool, it's like, okay, you have some major needs that are not being met, you know? And to me, it's so beautiful to just like, again, I've talked about this before. I have some major issues with my mother, but one good thing that she
Mhm.
taught me when I was growing up was
Mhm.
get the thing that you actually want. Like do the thing that you actually want. Don't get a substitute, right? Because
Mhm.
if you get, like, say you have a taste for something
Mhm.
and you go to the store and they don't have it,
Mhm.
don't buy anything because whatever you eat, it's still not going to be the thing that you want. You're still going to keep thinking about the thing that you want.
No, it's really true. And it's a attentional practice too, because, or like mindfulness, because
Yes.
like you say, we're so trained. And I mean, that's just part of human existence ever since the beginning. I mean, like squirrels, are squirrels running around just doing exactly what they want all the time? No, they have to do certain things to prepare for winter.
Exactly.
And it's
Yes.
the same with us. I mean, there's things that you have to do that you don't want to do for
Yes.
future goals.
Yes.
But it's important to know yourself. And I
Yes.
think for a lot of people, well, for me, I was probably about 20 years ago. I'd always enjoyed clothing and style and sewing my own clothing, but I always was, I had physical problems that would prevent me from sewing. I wouldn't have a big budget.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have time, things like that. So, excuse me. So I always felt like it was kind of, I enjoyed it, but it was kind of like I'd never taken it to the next level.
Sure.
So I started a style blog,
Yeah.
a sewing blog, and I was already over 40, which was kind of controversial at the time. And it thought, I'm just going to see what I can do to kind of create a wardrobe that like I really like, that
Yes.
really works for me. And it was a very interesting journey to go through that and find, okay, what do I think I want? What do I actually want? And I have all these physical considerations that I was taking into account. It was interesting. There's I can't remember the name of it, but there's a post I wrote talking about, just personal style and how much of it is, you know, you think about choosing things or having certain things, but a lot of it has to do with like not choosing other things that you don't want. Like if you think about Audrey Hepburn versus Katharine Hepburn, they both have incredibly distinct, fantastic styles, and their body types are not that dissimilar. But trying to think about putting one of them in the other's clothes,
yeah, no kidding.
you see that there is this big difference, and they were just kind of like, it's like you choose your lane and you stay in it, and and they both had very consistent style over their lifetimes.
Yes.
So, and it's interesting, I went on a riff on that one post because a lot of the style choices that I make have to do with limitations, right? I wear dresses because I've had all these problems with my legs, right? It's the same reason Frida Kahlo did, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like one thing to have in common with her painting. Exciting lovers, no, none of this. I just have the leg job. I have a cute little dog. There you go.
I just have a mustache that I gotta deal with.
But I don't have to deal with a philandering husband, so I guess that's good.
Hey, you're right.
There you go. I have some good earrings too. But anyway, so and then I wear a lot of hats, and that's because when I was 20, I got in this bad car accident. I got I was in a VW Bug, and this kid turned right in front of me. I was headed to my photomat job, and I hit the steering wheel and busted like right here. So I busted my nose, and I ended up, my whole forehead opened up. I was like drenched in blood. I have a scar that goes from here down to here. It's almost 5 inches long.
Yeah.
So it took a long time to recuperate from that.
Of course.
Luckily, I never even lost consciousness, so I didn't have that. Actually, it was during the height. It was when AIDS was in the blood supply too, and luckily, they just said, well, she's young, so we won't give her a blood transfusion. So I was very lucky.
Of course, yes.
But it gave me a lot of insight into like people are just like awful and horrified. Hopefully people are better nowadays, because you know I had this huge long stitches and everything.
Yes.
So it gave me a lot. I don't know, it didn't give me, it's very different to think about that versus having people just like have shock and horror and disgust just looking at you. So it kind of busted me out of that kind of normalcy privilege, as it were.
Exactly. Yes.
But then also I had to get it to heal up properly, I had to wear a lot of hats, and I discovered I liked hats, and I discovered, since I have very sensitive skin, not getting sun on them was like a big improvement.
Of course, yeah.
So this become like a trademark for me, but it's because of this creepy thing that happened.
Yes.
And that, I wear a lot of natural fibers and that type of thing, but it's because I can't take the other ones because I get a lot of shocks. Also, if I wear a lot of polyester or something, I start like sweating.
Of course, yes.
But then you end up kind of crafting this, out of all this, you end up kind of crafting this persona, which brings me back to Fortune and the Sea Priestess and Moon Magic, because we're talking a lot of this about how you see yourself and your own relationship to your own body.
Yes.
But clothing and the physical presentation of your own personal self is highly, it's always been a thing in humanity as far back as we can see.
Yes. And
it has to do with who you are in society and how you want others to see you. So it's very much a consensus social thing. But also, Fortune talks about in the Sea Priestess and in Moon Magic, Vivian LeFay, or Lilith, talks about how she's kind of this interesting character who's like supposedly over 100 years old and always finding these like hot younger guys to get involved with for her magical practices. Somehow.
Perfect goals.
Really. And she talks very much about using color, scent, light, the physical space around you, your garments, movement, all as ways to create a certain atmosphere. Now, ritual magicians think about this a lot when you're trying to invoke a deity, right? But she talks about creating the magical personality, which is when you want to, well, it's kind of like fake it till you make it type of thing, like in the business world, right?
Yes.
You present yourself in a certain way, people start to see you that way, which helps empower you to become that person.
Yes, exactly.
So she talks about it in a magical way, as a way of kind of like evolving yourself. And it's not something you can kind of do it on your own.
Yeah.
But really, for it to get like the big bang, you need to do it with another person who buys into that version of you. It's like if you're like if you have a drug problem and you want to get clean, one of the things that's always recommended is that you cut ties with the people that you did drugs with, because they're always going to see you that way.
Yes.
If you go to a new social circle and people who see you that way, as you know, someone who wants to be sober,
yes,
they'll help feed that magical personality that you're trying to cultivate as the sober you. And it's the same thing with professional things. Like if you've been working at one business for a long time, you have all the skills, you have the capabilities, you have everything it takes to move up in the company, but everyone sees you as this person at this one, you know, cubicle or whatever. So if you go to a new company, then you start to see and take on a bigger position. People see you that way, so they're going to feed that part of your personality. And for anyone, this is really, excuse me, something that can be leveraged very effectively in your day-to-day life. And I think it needs to come out of the temple and into day-to-day life.
Yes, 100%. Again, it's so funny because I consider myself a chaos magician now, and looking back at my life, I think about all the things that I did that were chaos magic that I didn't even realize at the time. When I started my chainmail business, I basically did that. So I decided when I was 25 that, because I've been making jewelry since I was 8, and I knew that that's the only thing that I wanted to do, right? So I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I ended up working for a couple jewelry designers, and I learned from them the business side of it. And then I also learned from them, like, okay, my degree's in sociology. I don't have an art degree. I don't have art connections, but what can I do in order to create the persona of Kali Butterfly, right? This is even that is a fucking magical name, right? Because I'm
that's
the
wonderful.
Hindu goddess of death, and then Vanessa, which is a genus name for butterflies, and it's like,
I didn't know that.
Butterfly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's great.
So that's me, and so then so again, my business had a magical name, and then it was all about positioning and leverage. So I knew, I'm like, okay. I started out with the Society of North American Goldsmiths. They do a yearly exhibition as part of their conference. The exhibition that they were doing was at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. So immediately I can have a line item on my CV that says I exhibited at a museum. So everybody takes me more seriously then. But that was one of my first shows. It didn't matter it was through Snag or not, it was at the museum, right? And so then because of that, anytime that I applied to get into another exhibition, they look at my CV, oh, she's legit, let's put her in, right? And so then I'm like padding out my CV. Then also, because I was working for 2 jewelry designers who also did tutorials, I knew like, I have to get a book of jewelry tutorials. And before that, you just publish stuff in magazines. And like the tip for anybody out there, all these magazines are hungry for projects. Like, again, once you peek behind the curtain, you're like, oh, it's all smoke and mirrors. I know how to work with this. Like, you have to have an idea, but it's not like there's this cutthroat competition. Like, they're looking for stuff, right? So if you have a skill, you're going to get published. And then as soon as you get published, people see your name in print and they suddenly think that you're an expert. And
Yeah.
even that too, like there were several competitions that I wanted to get into and place and ideally win, but at least place. So again, that goes on the CV.
Yep.
I am an award-winning jewelry designer. And it's just
Mhm.
like all these pieces, and it's positioning and leverage. Because once you can leverage into this new position, then you leverage into the next one. And
Mhm.
again, it's this like that magical creation of, all right, I'm creating this persona, I'm creating an image. You can do it with yourself, you can do it with your business, you can do it with anything. You just have to have that mindset of creation and like, again, image building and getting people on board. It becomes an egregore essentially, right? Because you've got
Yeah.
all these people pouring energy into a thing and believing a thing. Like, of course it's going to be powerful. It's like all these people's good thoughts that are just like coalescing.
I really like you're talking about this as an egregore too, because that's become like a super popular term. Recently, I actually did a video on this, and I think it gets used like a little loosely and imprecisely. But
Yes.
here, I think it's very good. You have the name, you have the physical objects and your physical business that are part of this egregore, and then you are putting very precise, very well considered images and ideas out there for people to get excited about and feed into it.
Yes. And I think you bring up a good point too, that idea of making objects. Because to me, crafting is a ritual process. Again, didn't think about it my entire life as I was making things, but now I really think about that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what this is. It's a magical act. It's a ritual act. Again, every piece of jewelry I was making, everything that I was doing was feeding this idea of having a business that could pay all my bills, right?
Yep.
And I did that for many, many years. And it was from that, like, okay, every time I am putting energy into this, every piece is a ritual. It is affirming this idea that I want to continue forward of me as jewelry designer, right? I mean, people still call me Kali, and I'm like, sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a semi-magical name for me. I'm like, sure, I'll take it. It's fine. She's my
That's
goddess.
great.
It's great, you know? Yeah, but it's just that, again, I very much look at like, okay, what are the fundamentals of ritual process and magical process? Because I think it's people can get intimidated at this idea of, you know, it's ceremonial magic or it's magic within a particular system. And I think there's an everyday magic that people have again, talking about alienation, people have lost touch with. And I think that is an important process of just the human experience of like, you're doing little spells, whether you realize it or not, in a lot of these things.
The thing is that magic, you're creating, let's see, what's his ass? Crowley's. It's not an insult. I call Oliver "what's your butt" all the time. Right, creating changes in reality in accordance with will.
Yes.
When you make a salad, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
When you create a garment, if you start looking at how you interact with the material world from this angle, I don't know if I put it here or not. That's another thing with the Dion Fortune. She wrote a book called the what the heck? Oh, here it is. The Esoteric Philosophy of Love and Marriage. I love that image. Now she has a lot of weird ideas that were very much embedded in the time of sexual ethics and mores and what you should and shouldn't do. In her defense, a woman coming out for free love in that day and age would have been, there would have been massive social consequences. So I think a lot of, especially the women writing in these previous times, had to figure out, how can I navigate current society, as well as being, enculturated like as we are. I mean, I'm sure 100 years from now, people will be looking at like, what the hell are these people thinking?
Oh, literally.
At us.
I think about that all the time. Yeah.
But also, there were real, very severe social consequences for women who did not toe the line as far as sexual morality in that day and age. So I would say give them a little bit of leeway. Right. And there's never going to be anyone, I haven't found yet, that you can completely be on board with in anything. So you have to read all these type of texts, critically.
Yes.
But she talks about basically like the 7 levels of reality, and how you have, like the ground of being, and then you have these levels of thought, and then down to emotion, and like the etheric, which would be like what did they say? The old-timey mediums, they were ectoplasm, that type of thing, various levels of reality. But if you think about, any type of project that you want, even if you want to like go see a concert, right? You get the idea. How you find out about it, you get the idea. Then you start to take physical actions. And then let's say you buy something, you buy a ticket online. That is, it's electrical, it's digital, it goes through the wires and the infrastructure of the internet. It has to do with like consensus social reality about money. Then you end up getting in your car or public transport, which is very physical, and going to meet up with these people at the concert, right? So you can see it starts as like an idea, and then falls down to these planes because it's a concrete consensus experience. And this is how a ton of stuff happens, like I said, like making a salad, cleaning your room, you're creating order from chaos, possibly.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know how that hasn't happened a lot in my room recently. So if you start thinking about what you're doing in these type of ways, you can start to leverage your intention, your will, your effectiveness, and move forward that way, so that you're not just, okay, I'm gonna, on Saturdays go in my temple or to my altar, and then I'm doing magic there. You can start to have it kind of expand out into your life, and hopefully become more effective or intentional about what you're doing. It can be a little bit destructive. Like if you're super unhappy with a lot of things in your life, it's going to throw a lot of that into relief, so it can be kind of a bit much. On the other hand, it can help you to move forward with what you want to do. Another thing, when it comes to, because we're talking a lot about like clothing, jewelry, things that have to do with the body. It can be difficult if you have, like trauma, things like that. I had to, with this, even though I really was motivated, I really like clothes, I enjoy the process of creating them, all that type of stuff. I run up against my physical limitations a lot. But if you want to become more effective esotericist or magician, you have to learn that. But if you do have like a lot of, if you have like abuse in your childhood or something, that'd be something. It can be very healing, but maybe go a little more slowly. Maybe have some therapy in place or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. It is so, again, talking about trauma, like it is so important to have support, and good support, right? I'm a huge fan of Alice Miller and all of her psychological writing, and just that idea of having like witnesses, the idea of helping witnesses, enlightened witnesses. You need to like have people who honor where you are in your process of healing and in your pain. Like that's, people are always like asking me about grief, and it's like, yeah, you can't do anything to fix it. You just, the best thing you can do is sit with somebody in their sorrow, right? And I think the best that anybody can do when they are suffering is really be honest and present with that suffering, right? And it's you have to be completely stuck in it. There are things that you can do, but again, move at your own pace. Like you said, don't push yourself too quickly, because there is this, I think, concern of like masking what's really going on, as opposed to really just kind of like facing it and being present in it. Especially with trauma, like you really have to figure out and do extra work to figure out what your authentic self is. And that might change over time too, as you do more healing and more learning and all of that. But you can start, right? You can, there's always a hint of like the you that's real, right?
Mhm.
And so like listening, really trying to clue into that voice, listening to that voice, and then affirming that voice. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to put on like this shirt today, because that's what feels the most me, I'm going to do that. Right.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
tomorrow it's a necklace and a shirt, it's like you're accruing this information, and you're editing your information essentially as time goes on, right? You're getting
Yeah.
more data, you're updating the information. Like that, I think, is really powerful. And yeah, it's it can be very affirming, but also it can be, any trauma work is disrupting, period, by its nature, right?
Yeah, because one of my other interests is sex magic and
Yeah.
erotic relationships with discarnate beings.
Yeah.
But I always try and be more gentle, because like when you see a lot of people that write about sex magic, it's like, I was in this ritual and these like hot partners, and we were like, you have like couples that come out together and talk about this type of stuff, which I say good for them. And I'm excited when people come forward and share their experiences. But I think there could be this kind of like performative or judgy aspect, like you're supposed to have this great relationship,
Yes.
and you and your partner, or you're supposed to be like good at sex, or and I'd like to say, I don't know that I meet any of those standards, but you can still learn about yourself. And
Yes.
and I think that we're all on this journey together. And, there's people, and I've known people through my life who had very horrible experiences with their body. People have had very difficult eating disorders or addictions, or I've had sexual trauma. And I say, I have as much, possibly more, respect for people that are dealing with those issues, because it's really hard. I mean, it's one thing if you got kind of like raised up okay and you like sex, and then you met this great person and woo,
Yeah.
And I say, more power to you.
Exactly.
More
Yes.
people should have fun and have rewarding experiences.
Yes.
But if you had to I don't even want to say overcome, if you have these very difficult experiences in your past with people who were supposed to be caring for you, or intimate, or maybe that takes a lot of courage and bravery. And I just think that is super important too. Because a lot of what we deal with, just kind of like on the consensus societal level, has to do with these like really weird ideas about intimate relationships of whatever sort. And a lot of it's not super healthy or fun as it's portrayed. So, but the reason I bring it up now is because, when you're dealing with the body, I mean, like a lot of people, if you're being abused by someone who is more powerful than you in your own home, right, you'll try and, I want to say, cover and make your body more disgusting. To try and avoid that. So if you're trying to become more joyful or more open with that, then it could be it's going to bring all that up. So I would just say, like everything that you said about just to go at your own pace and find your support. But then when you do find that, it can be really great to have a joyful relationship with your body. And with it, and to have it be where you can have other people around who appreciate that too, and just like to just say, oh, that's a great sweater or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, and especially too, so much of trauma and abuse, it leads to shame, right? And the affirmation of self it can be really difficult when you have that shame background. But again, then it means so much more when you get to that point, or as you are approaching that point, because it's like you're taking your body back, right? Like you're taking your experience back, and you're also in charge of, like, it's like people, you get to decide how you walk through the world, as opposed
I like
to
that.
yes. And so I don't know, again, it's really powerful, like, to me. And again, that broader sense of what magic is, right? Like there is so much magic in like you said, clothes, adornment, and also in healing and trauma healing and getting back to a source of pleasure in your own body. Like that is incredibly powerful alchemy. And I don't think we talk about that enough, right? Because it's not like casting a circle and summoning a demon or something like that, right? It's not as like glamorous, but to me, it's so much more powerful, like and from a personal perspective in terms of like transformation, like again, if you're doing ritual work and you're not like becoming a cooler individual, or what's the point? Like, I don't care if you can change the weather if you just suck to interact with.
Oh, speaking of weather, I wanted to bring up someone, Josh Allen, who actually is a Taoist weather magician.
Oh my God, cool.
Yeah, you can find his, he has a channel. He's a lot of fun. He's this guy in Britain, and he has a YouTube channel with a lot of information about Taoism and weather magic. And he makes these really fun videos. He does the whole ritual robe and crown and the altar. It's very aesthetic, but he just recently made a new fan. I guess the fans are very important in Taoist, especially weather magic. And he has made a YouTube video where he talks about his process, and it was very, he had these intense visionary experiences with these ancient Taoist magicians in his lineage, and received visions about how to make this fan and what it should look like and everything. So I think people might enjoy that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, it's not too long of a video, and he has a ton of stuff on weather magic and all different type of stuff there, and they're very clear, very good. And I like, he's always kind of like, well, you can thinking about the ethics of what you're doing and stuff. So that's important. But I wanted to talk a little bit about too. Even if you're not a big, let's say you want to start putting your magic into your clothing. So partly this can be your own personal style, colors, textures, fibers, all that type of stuff. But you can also just do small things that are easy to do. And I'm going to illustrate with a couple of examples, because I figure I want to use this video.
Yes.
Because I got all excited when I was thinking. I felt like my mind was just like blank for weeks. I was like,
exactly.
So you can find trims and put them, and you don't, especially if you're feeling private. This could be something good if you're trying to set your intention, or something that you want to work on privately, but you still want it to be on your body. If you wear underwear. You're not running around naked constantly. You can sew things onto your undergarments and stuff. I wear a lot of slips. Actually, I've worn some of them out. But this, I don't know how it's going to show up. But I found this. You can find little bits and bobs and then sew them, like onto your bra or your undershorts. If you have like a tank top or camisole or undershirt or whatever you're wearing, on the inside of the yoke, if you're wearing a button-down shirt and you're a guy or a gal, on the inside of the yoke, you can attach things there. But it's kind of ratty. But I found this from Britex. It is old antique lace from the 1920s in Paris, or France rather. I don't know, can you see it? It is dragons. Let me see if I can put this.
Oh my God, cool.
It's little like fire-breathing dragons, and this slip. This isn't showing up that great. But anyway, so it's just something that you just know that you're wearing. I had to, it started falling apart because I wore this so much. But so I had to reinforce it on the back. You can see there. But yeah, so this is something that, well, of course, now everyone knows that I'm wearing this. But you just dragon shirt. You can just have it to yourself. It doesn't have to be out there. And another thing, now I actually use this as part of construction, but there's like little embroidery stitches you can do that, they're not super, you can see I use it to gather these ruffles there. They're not super complicated. They're more easy to do. You can add them onto your garments. And when you're stitching, you can have an intention to them if you want.
Yes. Well, even so, you reminded me, I have this collar. Maybe I'll drop the photo in when I'm editing this. I made this beaded collar, and it bead embroidery. And underneath it, so it's called Dreams of the Fallen because it's about like the fallen angels. And underneath it I embroidered 3 sigils, right?
There you
For
go.
Lucifer,
That's
Azazel,
awesome.
and Lilith. And it's like, no one knows they're there but me. It's never in any of the photos out there, but like it's in there.
That is fantastic, and that's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a perfect use of that. Let me. I think I have this here. Okay, this looks kind of gross because it's not dirt. The ink is faded.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so I have actually this dress it's a beautiful. This is another thing. Choosing your fibers. This is by a Nano Iro. She's a Japanese designer. It's a beautiful cotton lawn. This is actually Liberty of London cotton lawn. And if you are able to sew, or if you are able to find or purchase garments that are of a higher quality, if you know that you really like them, they'll be much more fun to wear, and then they'll also last for a ton of years.
Forever. Yes.
Yeah, and still be good. That's actually one of the reasons why I make my own clothes, is that I'm really hard on clothes. And so if I make my own, then I can use higher quality materials and the type of fit and construction techniques that'll help them last longer.
Yes.
Because I really don't like to be shopping a lot. I mean, I can't wear secondhand clothes because they just fall apart. I don't know. I wonder, I'm one of those people that gets like a lot of shocks. I don't know if that has partly to do with it.
Oh,
but if you find fabrics that you like, you'll find fun stuff. Now this dress is like about 90% constructed through hand stitching. I don't know what, I was just on a tear. Anyway, so
good. Love it.
But you can see, so there's this bit of selvage that I use in the design, and it says a bow yin yang.
Yes.
Which is kind of fun. I
love that.
I had kind of a magical purpose for this, and it happened.
Yes.
But none of you can know about it. Anyway,
I mean, of course.
So,
I like some mystery.
So another thing that you can do, so this is the back neck of this garment. But another thing you could do is you kind of make your labels or something you put. Now this is just kind of fun for me. Because when I have my style blog, this lady, she linked this is like old 1890s satirical cartoon about ladies that wore bustles.
I love it.
But I know, isn't it fun? She's like this snail on the beach. But the thing I like is that, you know, this is slow fashion, right? Because it probably took me like over 40 hours of stitching on this dress.
Oh my God, of course.
But I like that. So it's kind of a pun. But like you say, you can have these, and even if you can't, if you're not an embroiderer, this is I just had the graphic and saved it to my computer, and then it's printed onto, you can find material fabric at the like Joann's or Michael's or something like that, or online, and you can print on it with your computer. So then all you need to do, and I pinked the edges. So all you need to do is that, and then just use like a straight stitch. You'll see here.
Yeah.
You can, I don't know if you can see very well. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
And so you can just sew that in. So if you have like a sigil or something that's important to you, an image that is what you want to project or something, it's a real easy way to do this on your clothes. You could put it on the outside, or you could put it on the inside of your clothes.
Yes.
And have some magical stuff. Now, another thing when we're talking about glamour.
Yes.
You're going to want to, well, like you were saying, fit is important. It's possible if you, even if you're not making your entire wardrobe, you can always do little things to enhance the fit. Like if you have something like this has, actually this shirt has princess themes into the shoulder.
Oh, yes.
So it comes down like this, so that you have, you know, so it's not, because I have like these big shoulders and a big bust. And if you just have everything hanging there, it look like a William the Refrigerator Perry or something. It's just like, so if you want to indicate, you know, so that you're not looking so big, you can just even like take a little dart or something here, and just, you don't have to like go full koan. indicate everything. But
Yes.
you know, or take in the sides a little bit so that you can just indicate the figure how you want. Right, you can
Yes.
have everything loose, you can show it all, you can whatever, but
Right.
if you little things like that, or how do I want to say, oh yeah, hemming, right? Making the hem hit you on a nicer place on your leg, or taking up your sleeve hems, things like that. Can be pretty simple to do. You can have them done at a dry cleaners sometimes for not much money, and it'll make you look, I don't want to say, it makes you look like you have your act together more because your clothes fit you.
Yeah, right.
People want to see you as a more serious person, right?
Well, and even for me, especially like, because I was selling my jewelry for years, right? And it was so wild because the number of women who would come up, they're like, oh, I can't wear that. My neck is too short. I'm too fat. I'm too whatever, all this negative self-talk. And I remember once there was a shorter woman, plump, man, like did not have a long neck. She walked up to my booth. She saw the biggest necklace I had. She put it on. The confidence radiated off of her. She's like, this one. I was like, oh yeah, I'd be shocked if you left without that, you know? Yeah. So it's that too. It's like, you know, to me, I'm definitely more confident when I'm wearing clothes that I've made because I know they fit me perfectly. And I'm also like, I made these, you know, and even if I don't tell people that, like, I know, and I'm proud of myself for that. And so that kind of thing too, where it's like, even if you buy something, but you alter it so that it fits you, and it fits you the way that you are the most confident in. Then the way you walk through the world, again, that's its own type of magic as far as I'm concerned, because people can tell when you're more confident. And if it takes like doing a few alterations on your clothes, that's really not that much. It's either not that much time or that much money. And you're going to feel better walking through the world. Because like you said, ritual adornment has been part of human existence before history, right? Like,
or even just adornment. I mean, basically, we're living in a very unusual time right now because most of human existence has been, you know, you presented in a certain way due to who you were as far as society cared. Like you were a young unmarried woman, you are an older married man, you know, you have certain ritual position in society, all these things. I mean, look at like the sumptuary laws in for example, England and stuff back in the day, right? So we still have that to a certain extent, but there's a lot more freedom with what you can do. And the other thing, as far as fit and alterations, you're not going to be fussing with your clothes all the time, which gives you a different aura. It gives you a different type of charisma, because you have that comfort and ease in your physical self. Another thing to consider, now I've put like way too much thought into this, but color is important. And choosing clothes that you feel harmonize with your physical self. Let's see, I'm a very low contrast person. I'm pale, I'm fussy. You know, even here, it looks like my hairline is a lot farther back than it actually is because it's like I'm going gray. And then even so, my hair, you know, I don't have a lot of contrast. If I wear a lot of loud colors and bright colors and a lot of high contrast stuff, it overwhelms me. There is that out in the world. But if I'm wearing, you know, this kind of scale and a level of contrast and color that's more in harmony with my physical, you know, how I look, then again, that's going to project a certain amount of ease with my physical self. And for a lot of people, you're going to be a lot more comfortable in certain colors, in certain patterns. So if you pay attention to that, then it's going to give you a more authentic charisma and authority, because you're projecting ease with yourself and what you're getting at.
It's so funny. One of the first times I ever read tarot at a party for my friend Sam, and at the end of the night, Sam was like, and I just want to congratulate Vanessa on wearing contrasting patterns and pulling it off. And that is me. Like, it's like, what is the loudest fabric I can find? Great, I'm gonna put it all together.
Well, that's to me, that's the fun thing, because I get some people who because I have, a particular kind of look that I've cultivated.
Yeah.
I did it on purpose, for better or ill. And people are like surprised when I like people with very different styles. But to me, that's the beauty of it, is that we have all these different people doing stuff. Yeah, I mean, you're wearing something. I would never feel comfortable with what you're wearing right now, or my hair like that.
Yeah.
But you look great, and it's really fun to see something different.
Well, and especially when somebody is happy and confident in what they're wearing, like, how can you not? Again, we're evolutionarily adapted to be sensory creatures, right? So, and again,
great.
that energetic experience of like, oh, you're confident. It is a delight to like see you and what you're wearing and your energy, right? And like for me, it's like, yeah, I love this shirt, and like, I've always had long hair. Like, my mom cut my hair when I was 3, and I cried, and she didn't bother ever doing that again. So crying works.
No,
But
that's
again,
great.
like, you find a thing that like really speaks to you, and again, definitely projects a certain image and projects a certain identity. And I like it, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that we're always projecting a certain image and identity, whether we think we are or not.
Yes, good point.
So you may as well work it to your advantage.
That's it, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
one other thing that I wanted to talk about, as far as clothing and the body.
Yeah.
And this is just something that I like to do. Not everyone likes to do this, but I'm a very innery, small. I pay attention to a lot of small things.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is to have and this is just part of like how I like to interact with people, but I like to have something that looks good at a distance, but I also really like to have very small details that people don't see until they get up close, and then have fun with it.
Yes.
So this is it's kind of a knee-length jacket thing. It's this fantastic fabric from Marcy Tilton. I get a lot of my fabrics there.
Oh, cool.
And it's cotton, and it's a jacquard. It's different on the other side. It's stretch.
God.
Oh, it's kind of the sponge. Yeah, it's really nice. Yes. But I don't know why I was thinking of I don't know why I was thinking of this, but in ancient Mexico, how they'd have those ball courts, and they'd play that human sacrifice ball game. So for whatever reason, I was thinking of that. And so I ended up on the collars and cuffs doing this embroidery. I don't know if you can see. It's just like X's and little knots, French knots.
Yes.
But you don't really see it because of the low contrast and everything. You don't really see it until someone's like really close to you.
Yes.
Which not everyone notices it, but to me it's fun when people are like, and they're like, hey, so you see who you draw in.
Yes.
If you're dating, I encourage this. Practice. Another thing I like, now this is just pure fun for things, but this is up here.
Oh yes.
Right here. You're gonna have it, they call it like a ticket pocket.
Oh yes.
Now you might like this because you have big shoulders too, so you have plenty of room to put it.
So much. Yes. A lot of real estate here.
Yep. And I like to put it with a little bit of a let's see, at an angle opening there. So instead of a straight line, which is gonna make your shoulders look even bigger.
That's it. Exactly.
And it's easier to get stuff in and out. But you could put just like your credit cards or some money or a lip balm in there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But you could do stuff like that if you're making your own clothing, which is kind of fun. Yes. Or some people put like a little similar pockets, like in the waistband of a skirt or something like, and so you can have like a security pocket there. Things like that.
Right. Ritual and practical purposes for clothing.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Especially if you're going to put it on the inside of a waistband, like a little pocket or something like that. That can be real easy to do if you just have minimal sewing skills, and then you don't have to use the same fabric or anything if no one's going to see it. So.
That's exactly it. Yes. Yeah. It gives you more freedom to play around with. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool. Oh my God, I love it.
oh, I just have one more thing to
Yeah,
show.
please.
Because if people are, because I'm interested in synchronicities
Yes.
and doing synchronicity experiments, and Steve Ray and I did one 2015 on the Radio Mysterioso show, and I ended up getting a couple of scarves out of it as kind of like knock-on things, which I'm always, I don't know, I go through times when I have a really hard time finding clothes and scarves and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so this one scarf showed up, and I had to crack up because it was from, I think, a Superdry or something, which is like a Japanese company. On the label, it says Japanese Spirit British Design, which was kind of fun because the radio host, Greg Bishop, is
Yes.
of Japanese/Caucasian descent. So it was a little bit of an echo of him. So I have
Yes.
a skirt that I wear a lot, and let's see. And so I sewed the label from that experiment into this skirt. So every time I'm wearing this skirt, I have a little bit of a synchronicity.
Of course.
And you can do, you know, if you have like weird, like a phrase that has a meaning for you or something, you could print it out on one of those fabrics, computer printer fabrics, and then sew it into your clothes. You know, anything like that. You could have a lot of, I take a lot of inspiration from Marcel Proust, Odette, who later became Madame Swan. I think that was the thing that shook me the most in any book. Why are you married, Odette? It's like, I don't know how long it's been. It's like 30 years or something. I'm still like,
of course.
Anyway.
Yes.
So he has fantastic passages in that book about developing relationships with these women, incredibly stylish women in Paris, France, in the turn of the century, and how you know, being invited into their boudoir as they're dressing at the toilet and seeing their clothing, the insides of their clothing. And Odette was famous for having like various phrases and flowers and things embroidered on the inside of her clothing, where no one's ever going to see them unless you're that intimate with her.
Yes.
And I really like that idea of having like kind of the public face of your image, and then the very more intimate side, and then, you know, it doesn't have to be anyone else knowing about it. Just for yourself or whoever. But yeah, like that dragon lace, which is be fun if it's dragons, but also it's this like, you know, antique French dragons on top of
oh my God, exactly. Yes.
You know, like you're saying, how you move through the world, you know, even if you're having like the crummiest days, thinking, well
that's it. I mean, that's how I feel, because it's like, okay, so again, I've clearly been a witch a long time. I have all sorts of like weird little totems and rocks and things like that. And sometimes you just like carry one of those in your pocket. But it's also sometimes cool, again, to like, if you have something embroidered in a jacket or something like that, and you put the jacket on, it does feel like, you know, again, you're casting a spell around yourself before you walk out the door. Like sometimes you just get that little extra juice that you're going to get from, again, the process of putting something on, as opposed to just like grabbing an object and putting it in your pocket, I think.
No, I agree. And then whatever, you know, if it's something that you've embroidered or gone through the process of stitching, there's something about like the fates, right? Weaving, spinning. This has always been like a magical practice. Spiders, right?
Yes.
It's always been a magical process. And sewing really is, I think, very effective for, you know, you're embedding this with every stitch into your intention, into this material object. If you then wear that object out in the world, you know, it's also a thing of, you know, if you're making something for anyone else, there's kind of supposed to be like a curse about knitting sweaters or knitting something for someone if you haven't made an official
don't need a sweater for a significant other,
unless it's, you know,
or if you really want it to be done and you don't know how to break up with a person, just make a sweater
just make them some shitty scarf. Here you go.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, that's, human relationships are flat, but yeah, that's a definite kind of superstition out there. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Where can people find you?
My blog is probably the best place to find me. It's Ghost Dog is a Mystery Box. The web address is stephaniequick.home.blog, and I have like blog posts, a contact page where you can see where I am on social media, and then also a page with like podcast and video appearances, so you can check that out too. This will be there shortly.
Yay, great.
So that's probably the best place to go. I don't think I have anything super promotional at this point. My one thing that I'm disappointed of is that because in this, I didn't know about your shoulder situation along with me. As you can tell, this is a little bit of a poofy sleeve here thing happening because how much I bust out the sleeves of things. I had found from AP Strange, he had sent me a link to this picture, and it's like a big cathedral, and there's all these mantises that are watching this wedding ceremony, which is being done by a big mantis in regalia. And the two people getting married are these two women who are both have like the big 80s hair, and they're wearing the big super poofy sleeved 80s wedding dresses. And I thought this would be good. I don't know why that just cracked me up so bad. Because I was thinking, I love those big sleeves. I mean, it's sometimes the look is a bit much, but then you can actually, move freely.
Move, exactly. Yes.
So hopefully I'll be able to dig this picture up, because I shared it around, but then I can't find it like on my computer or on my phone. So hopefully when I find this, I'll share it with everyone and with you, because you'll understand the struggle.
Oh, I do, yes.
Thank you so much for listening and or watching, depending on where you found the podcast. You can find Steph at stephaniequick.home.blog. I'm going to link that in the description. If you want to keep up with Personal Pans, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Personal Pans. And if you want to talk to me about anything weird, you can find me on Twitter at Kali Butterfly. It's Kali Butterfly. Again, so grateful to talk to somebody else who thinks about clothing and adornment in these ways. And hopefully this has inspired you to have a playful and curious day.